Greetings adventurers, and welcome to the Loot Goblin Marketplace. The one thing that annoys me more than a controlling dungeon master is a controlling player at the table. The dungeon master at the very least spent hours of their free time setting up a game for everyone to enjoy, so if they railroad the party every once in a while to get an outcome that they've spent all week on, I kinda get it. When you're just a player who shows up at the table every week and expects the entire party and the dungeon master to bow to your will, that is a level of controlling that I truly cannot wrap my head around. Should players at the table have the ability to influence the story through their character's actions? Of course. But should they be able to twist the dungeon master's arm into making it so that they are the main character with the ability to smite down everyone that opposes them? Of course not. You don't have to rule your game with an iron fist as a dungeon master, but you definitely have to be firm against players who try to run over you and the rest of the players at the game table. Today's treasure goes by the name Another Player Rolls to Determine My Alignment/Backstory, and begs the dungeon master for a magic item to kill me with. Today's video is brought to you by Cheipeku. Even before I made this YouTube channel, I've been using their stuff for my games. They have made my campaign preparation so much easier. You may already support them on Patreon because they make fantastic maps, scenes, and tokens. But did you know that they're all available now for the price of 2 subscriptions in one single bundle? If you go to their website, use the link below to grab the complete fantasy bundle and get 6,000 battle maps, 2,000 fantasy scenes, and over 300 tokens that can be tweaked using their amazing token builder, meaning endless possibilities. You can put together just about any scenario using this bundle in minutes, and treat your party to beautiful, hand-drawn assets that will blow them away. If you want to help support the channel, or you just want to use this amazing art on your screen for your next game, click the link in the description below and get the bundle today. Hey everyone, this happened somewhat recently, but it was difficult for me to deal with. This is also an active campaign, and while the problem player infuriated me to no end, I think they had a lot of issues that need to be worked through, and I bear them no ill will. So please don't call them out or harass them or anything if you know them. I just need to get this off my chest. This campaign had a large number of players to start, but the most noteworthy ones in the story are myself, Dave, and the Dungeon Master. I've DM'd more games than I've played, so when an interesting looking 5th edition campaign in a homebrew world came up from a newer Dungeon Master on Discord, I hopped at the chance to join. We had a good amount of time to socialize and work on our characters before our first game. I really wanted to do something unique and interesting, so I played a delusional kobold that thought they were a dragon. We did some reflavoring, but kept things mechanically the same. So for instance, burning hands came from my mouth. Everyone seemed pretty chill, but there was one person that was far more active on the server than everyone else. Dave. Dave had some kind of job, but we never figured out what this was, where they weren't allowed to be on a computer, but they could talk and speak out loud. So they would frequently ask people to go on voice chat or do calls with them. I know we were going to be speaking to everyone once the game started, but as all of my prior experience was in person, it still made me a bit uncomfortable to do a voice call with someone one-on-one. So while I didn't mind chatting with them solo, I kept making excuses for doing a call. Session 1 seemed fine. They did things that kept drawing attention to their character and would push the dungeon master to allow them to do certain things in their backstory that didn't make sense in the dungeon master's homebrew setting. Nothing too major, but stuff like, it says I can sleep at the guard post in the city as part of my background. I'm a guard in the city and I can sleep there and bring some other people, right? There's not really an organized military presence in this small town, but it says right here in my background that I can do it. And that sort of repeated until the dungeon master relented. This was the start of a pattern. So after the first session, they messaged me saying, "Hey, I have this great magic item I'll be giving myself before the next session." I was a little confused that they were messaging me instead of the dungeon master, but I figured they were trying to brainstorm before approaching them. Holy cow, Batman, the description of what this magic item could do was 2 whole pages. I crunched some numbers and quickly realized that this magic item was not only capable of keeping the whole party consistently healed, it could one-shot a tarrasque. I was a bit flabbergasted and pointed out that this was capable of killing, as a bonus action, the highest published challenge rating monster in the game, and they responded with, "Yeah, I know, it was one of the things I wanted to do when I built it." Okay, wait, so this guy knows exactly how ridiculous he's being? That makes it so much worse. Here's some brief background on the Dungeon Master's world and the campaign. This was a very low magic setting, and we all started at level 3. In terms of magic items, we've so far come across cantrip spell scrolls, a coin of delving, and a cloak of billowing. Still, I figured maybe they were just unfamiliar or awkward and they were so eager, so I tried to help them. I thought about what they wanted to do conceptually with their item and created something that had some level-based scaling and was fairly effective, but far more balanced and in line with what someone might have at level 3 in a campaign, and figured with Dungeon Master approval and maybe some sort of quest it could be acquirable. I told them that their idea was pretty overpowered, especially for level 3, and suggested the more balanced item to them. The description only took one paragraph. They responded that the item was totally useless, and I didn't hear from them until the next session. This is where things went totally off the hook. The author here is probably way more forgiving and patient than I would be in this situation. This player has only played a single game with this Dungeon Master, and now he fully expects to be unkillable and able to one-shot anything that he wants. I can already tell the Dungeon Master is going to have a bad time here, but I also feel bad for the author here. They take time out of their schedule, try to manage expectations, taking the time to balance the items so things feel fun but not broken, and then Dave goes, "Ew, no, that sucks," and then kind of just leaves him on red until the next session. Since the Dungeon Master allowed him to be a guard and bunk with a couple of the other party members there, he used this as a quest hook. The head of the guards gave him a quest, and he went to wake up the other party members who stayed with him. Half of us had stayed behind at an inn. The group wanted to do some downtime, shopping, and socializing this session, so they were off to the market. The Dungeon Master asked them, "Are you going straight there? Are you going to the inn first to get the rest of the party?" "No, we're going straight there." "Are you sure? The rest of the party is still there." "Yes, we're going to the market." He went to a blacksmith and asked them to make a set of tonfa, which are like those Japanese batons. I guess the guy's a little bit of a weeb, maybe. It didn't really make sense in the setting for the blacksmith to have any idea what they were referring to, but Dave kept pushing, and eventually the Dungeon Master decided that if he can draw up the specifications really well, maybe the smith or another party member proficient in smithing could make it, but it would have to be a difficult roll and they would have to succeed on multiple checks. He eventually goes back to the tavern and draws up multiple specs with a string of 17 plus rolls. He then engages in persuasion rolls, another string of like 17 plus rolls, to convince the other party members to buy those specs and his cantrip scroll, and changes the prices each time, but nobody wants a metagame, so he just scams the party. This takes hours. Some people got chances to interact and play D&D, but the camera was always following them, so to speak. After a skill challenge and an immense amount of 17 plus rolls on Dave's end, they get their tonfa. They proceed to tell everyone about the qualities and the stats of it. It winds up being this wish list of weapon traits, bonus damage dice, and bonus armor class. The Dungeon Master tries to stop him and tells him that he needs to figure out what its stats and properties are, but Dave insists that he already had this conversation with the Dungeon Master, and that they told him the weapon could have all these properties, and that he should stand by his previous conversation. I made up some reason to head directly to the market, something I forgot to mention. Another player complained that I was talking over them in a previous session. I felt bad about this, as this isn't something I want to do to another player. We figured that it was half that I spoke strongly and confidently, conditioned to as part of my job, and the other half was them having a quiet microphone. I try to be more careful about using my meeting voice, and I turned my voice output down and turned theirs to the max, and it seemed to solve the issue. The reason I mention this is because I still felt bad, so I wanted to give gifts to all the other players. I had spent most of the week planning this out, so I need to get to the market before the end of the session. We essentially just had starting gold and equipment, so I had to get creative to make meaningful gifts for the rest of the party, and it took up most of my starting equipment and all of my starting gold. As Dave heard me doing this, Dave decided to say, "Hey everyone, let's plan out how our party will handle finances. Let's leave out the author because they're selfish and greedy." They proceed to plan and vote on how to handle finances. Then proceeded with, "Also, I have this quest. Let's discuss it and plan out how to proceed with it now before author gets back." I was pretty livid at this point. I had essentially sat out all session due to his decisions and deliberately excluded from roleplay moments and campaign decisions. I realized that my character also had every reason to be pissed with the information they had available. So as I returned and Dave announced the decisions the party had already made, I challenged them on their behavior over the day. They responded with, "Well, you're a greedy dragon, so I know you're bad with your money. I don't even need to guess. I just know that you spent all your money at the market. That proves I'm right. In fact, on our next quest, I can just tell the quest giver that you didn't participate and just keep your reward." That's when things got weird. Ah yes, dragons, of course, very notorious for giving all their gold to their friends and spending their entire fortune fortune in a day. I'd recommend becoming friends with the Gold Dragon. They get that name because they give out gold constantly to anyone that visits their lair. For some reason, adventurers think that you have to fight them to the death for their fortune, but the truth is you just have to ask really nicely, as Dave here clearly knows. One thing that I will criticize the author here for, I get that you are annoying out of game and you want to make up for it, but how does in-game gifts make up for it? If you already corrected the behavior and you apologize for it, giving out these in-game gifts doesn't really make sense. In fact, it's a little metagamey. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's much worse ways to metagame. I am a little confused why you did it, and now for some reason I guess Dave is taking advantage of it and metagaming in a much more worse and annoying way. And sadly, the Dungeon Master is still an absolute pushover. Hopefully that changes, we'll see in the rest of this story. I tried to just ignore him and went around to the rest of my party, bestowing my gifts to them. They were mostly silly things. A kobold's best attempt to make a scented candle, some tinkerer's tools for the warforged, a chess set for the scholar, etc. Dave interrupted pretty frequently for rolls to determine if I was good or evil. It didn't make much sense to me at the time, but now I'm fairly certain they were trying to justify attacking me by proving I'm the opposite alignment of whatever they were. They kept persuading the Dungeon Master until they finally let them do a series of rolls for it, and lo and behold, more 17+ rolls culminating in a 19. The Dungeon Master decided he succeeded and asked me to tell him about my backstory and alignment. Here's the thing, I didn't really flesh out their whole backstory yet. I figured I could develop it as the character develops through play. I tried to share what I'd come up with so far, but kept being pressured for more. Before I put my foot down and said, look, I don't care how well you rolled, you can't read my backstory and my character's inner thoughts with the skill check. The Dungeon Master finally agreed with me, and we ended the session. They took off, but some of us stayed on the call to chat. Then Dave says, you should have never tried to stand up to my character. Kobolds are cowardly. You're not playing your character correctly. I glanced at my character sheet and pointed out that I had the Kobold legacy trait Defiance, which gave me advantage against being frightened, so I don't think I need to play them cowardly. Then they dropped the next line. You know I could kill your character at any time I wanted. You wouldn't be able to do anything to stop me. This wasn't one-on-one or anything either. This was in front of the other party members. I laughed it off, but I'm a little uncomfortable. He wasn't very knowledgeable about the game, and I was pretty confident in my tactic/character build, so I wasn't too worried if they attacked me out of the blue, but they always rolled exceptionally high. Yeah, because they're cheating their rolls, obviously, and could go for my character in their sleep. I was getting worked up, so I made an excuse and I logged off. As the weeks progressed, it looked more and more likely that we were going to get an OP magic item, and I kinda lost it. I went on a bit of a rant and told both him and the Dungeon Master I really think it's a bad idea to give him this item because it's very powerful and he's already threatened to kill my character. I realized something at the time that I suspect is a surprise to zero of you out there. He rolled physical dice. It's not something I'd even considered, but suddenly it was incredibly suspicious of him not rolling below a 17 that session. I started mentally planning contingencies of what preparations I'll be making to protect myself and messaging the Dungeon Master in order for Dave not to metagame around them. At this point, I had a reality check. What was I doing? This wasn't fun anymore. I had decided that I would probably quit, but also went back and just wrote a heartfelt message about what I felt was antagonistic from him, how it made me feel as a player, and potential steps we could take towards a resolution. Then I muted the server for 24 hours, and I tried to mentally prepare myself for telling them I was no longer interested in continuing. Okay, that's actually kind of funny. He hits send there and immediately tabs out of Discord. I return and I'm shocked and surprised. A lot has transpired in those 24 hours. I had gotten a couple of messages of support from the Dungeon Master and some of the other party members. Other party members had started sharing their own grievances regarding Dave and how uncomfortable they were feeling. Dave did not respond at all well to any of this and blamed everyone except for himself. My favorite justification he made that nobody else seemed to buy is that he had already messaged me and that I was alright with everything. LOL, no. Things were getting heated and several people were really upset, and the Dungeon Master decided to just pull the trigger and kick him. His character became a non-player character and was later discovered dead in a ditch in the following session. So that's my horror story. Thanks for reading this through to the end. Some of the problems and issues other party members had with Dave were pretty shocking and warrant a separate story all on their own, but this has gone on for long enough, and I'll leave it to them to tell their own stories if they choose. It seems that everyone here at the table was already miserable with playing with Dave. They were afraid to say something though, so finally when the author here said something and kind of vanished, people were forced to address it. Would it have gone better in a call? Maybe. Would Dave's crash out have been even more aggressive? Probably. But I guess in the end everyone's happy besides Dave, which I can live with. The guy was metagaming, cheating his rolls. He lied about gold to scam his fellow players. Honestly, let's forget about the metagaming and the cheating dice rolls. That's annoying. One of the more sinister things he did was tell people that they already had the conversation and that they said the opposite of what they're saying now, so they have to move on. Like the man told the Dungeon Master to his face, "You already proved this item, so you can't take back how busted it is now," when very clearly no stats were established. And then Dave had the nerve to do it again when the author here finally aired their grievances. Dave tried to pretend that the author and them had hashed it out and that the author was good with them now. Did this man really think the author would never come back? I guess there was a chance because he muted for 24 hours, but the guy played that gambit and he lost hard. If you're legitimately trying to gaslight people to get a slight edge in D&D, I feel like you've lost the plot completely. I feel like the way these players excel a lot of the time is they badger the Dungeon Master over and over again until they get some kind of power boost over the rest of the party, and then they turn that onto the party and say, "Look, my character's stronger, I can 1v1 you no problem, you're gonna have to do what I say, I'm basically the main character of this party now." And it's really frustrating because the Dungeon Master does play a role in it. Even if they're not the problem player, they're enabling the problem player, and a lot of the times it's not like they're trying to favor that player, they just wanted them to shut up and they gave them a boost like 2 sessions ago, but now everyone else has to pay for it. I think the lesson here is if you're annoyed with something and it seems like it's super blatant to you, if you just air it out, maybe you're gonna have other people at the table that agree with you. So if you're that frustrated, just try to say something sooner. That at least is my thought process. Easier said than done, obviously, but it's really all you can do in that situation. Make sure to like and hype the videos, it really helps the channel grow, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now.